Here with another episode of Coach's Corner. I'm here today with Mary Tappmeyer, coach of the women's basketball team. Coach Tappmeyer, first let's talk about you have a game against Flagler this Saturday, an exhibition game. What are your expectations in that game?
I think we'd like to see that we set really solid screens. Expectation is that we would win, but to do that, I'm more concentrating on seeing that we're making progress. We will have had 13 practices, which is not very many before you try and throw a game at a really young team. But I want to see where we're at to get some live game experience, hopefully crowd experience, officials around us before we travel down the next weekend to Florida.
You guys have a tough schedule, including Miami and Wake Forest on that schedule as well, going to those places. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, we open up at Florida State, who got to the Sweet 16 last year. We also play at Pitt we play Florida State on Friday, and then we go to Pitt, who was also in the Sweet 16. I think the 5 games that we're playing that are big-time opponents, obviously they're going to expose a lot of our weaknesses, and we understand that they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're just going to cave. I think they'll expose our weaknesses and prepare us for when we go to the ASUN when we start playing our ASUN games and get into the conference tournament play.
Now you have 6 newcomers. What are your expectations for them?
Expectations, we have 2 transfers that are sitting out, so they're just going to help us in any way possible. We have 2 true freshmen that have to pick up a lot of information and work their way into the system, understand how hard they have to practice every day and what they have to do every day. And then we have 2 junior college transfers that we really feel like by the time we get to conference should be a big benefit to us coming off the bench.
Okay. On the lines of that, you lost 2 starters this offseason. Who's going to step up to replace their production?
Well, I think defensively it's going to have to be a total team effort. I think Jen Galdegger was probably one of the best defensive players I've ever coached. She could guard in the post and on the perimeter. I think the hardest thing to replace is going to be their leadership. They were 4-year starters, knew the system inside and out, weren't great scorers for us. Jen Bowen was one of our leading scorers, but I think that the scoring we can replace, it's the leadership and the composure on the floor that's going to be probably the most difficult for us to replace. But I think Julie May-Sikio and Brittany Kirkland are a really, really good backcourt guard combination, so we'll get a lot of dynamic, explosive scoring from them. We just need a little bit more solid play. We've got Jade King-Kerr back coming off a medical redshirt year with her knees, who gives us a long-range shooting presence. And then both of our junior college kids can light it up from beyond the arc, so that should help us some as well.
Jaden's sister's also joining the team this year, correct?
Jaden is. She's sitting out a year of residency as a transfer from Wichita State, and she gives us a lot of versatility to be able to use her in practice. She can play the 3 and the 4. Fundamentally sound, really understands the game, and really we expect a big boost from her as far as helping us this year in practice, but more so next year when she actually gets put in a uniform.
Okay. Overall, what are your expectations for this season? You got 6 newcomers, 8 returners. What are your overall expectations?
I think we need to understand that we're still a work in progress, and saying that we want to get to the conference tournament and make-making is important, but we have to take the steps to get there. We have to get better every day. We have to understand what our strengths and weaknesses are and put our kids in situations where they're going to be successful. And with so many new kids, there's a lot of tinkering that has to be done that first semester.
With that in mind, you have a tough schedule and all that too. What would you consider a successful season this year?
The team's whole goal is to make-making, which is where the conference tournament is held. So we need to finish in the top 8 in conference so we can get into the tournament.
All right. Thank you, Coach Mary Tappmeyer of the UNF women's basketball team.